Welcome, dear listeners, to another enlightening episode of Philosophies for Life, the podcast where we dive deep into the minds of history's greatest thinkers to uncover timeless wisdom for our modern lives. I'm your host, and today we're traveling back over 2,500 years to ancient Greece to meet a man often called the father of Western philosophy, Thales of Miletus. We'll explore how Thales' approach to critical thinking can transform the way we make decisions and nurture our mental well-being in a world that often feels chaotic and overwhelming. So, grab a cup of tea, settle in, and let's embark on this intellectual journey together. Let's start with the man himself, Thales of Miletus. Born around 624 BCE in the bustling port city of Miletus, in what is now modern-day Turkey, Thales lived during a time of immense cultural and intellectual ferment. Miletus was a thriving hub of trade and ideas, a crossroads where Greek, Egyptian, and Babylonian influences mingled. This was the era of the Ionian Enlightenment, a period when thinkers began to question traditional myths and seek rational explanations for the world around them. Thales was at the forefront of this revolution. He wasn't just a philosopher. He was a polymath, a mathematician, astronomer, engineer, and even a businessman. Imagine a man walking through the agora, or marketplace, with a mind buzzing with questions about the stars, the earth, and the very nature of existence. That was Thales. We don't have a wealth of personal details about his life. Much of what we know comes from later historians like Herodotus and Aristotle, but the stories we do have paint a picture of a man driven by curiosity and practicality. One famous anecdote tells of Thales predicting a solar eclipse in 585 BCE, an event that reportedly halted a battle between the Medes and the Lydians as both armies stood in awe of his foresight. Whether this story is entirely true or not, it speaks to Thales' reputation as a man who could pierce the veil of mystery surrounding nature. Another tale highlights his practical side. Supposedly, Thales used his knowledge of weather patterns to predict a bumper olive harvest, rented out all the olive presses in Miletus, and made a fortune when the harvest came in. This wasn't just a clever business move, it was a demonstration of his belief that understanding the world through reason could lead to tangible benefits. Thales lived in a world where gods and myths explained everything from thunderstorms to human suffering. Yet, he dared to ask, why? He sought natural explanations for phenomena, laying the groundwork for scientific inquiry. He is often credited with the idea that water is the fundamental substance, or arche, of all things, a radical notion at the time. But more than his specific theories, it's his method of thinking that we're focusing on today: critical thinking. Thales believed that we could understand the world not through blind faith or superstition, but through observation, reason, and questioning. This approach wasn't just about understanding the cosmos, it was a way of navigating life itself. And that's where we find the seeds of wisdom that can help us in our decision-making and mental well-being today. Let's dive deeper into Thales' key philosophical ideas, particularly his emphasis on critical thinking. At its core, critical thinking for Thales was about stepping back from assumptions and looking at the world with fresh eyes. In his time, if a river flooded, people might say it was the wrath of Poseidon. Thales, instead, might have observed the patterns of rainfall and geography to explain the event. He was one of the first to suggest that natural phenomena have natural causes, not supernatural ones. This shift in perspective, from accepting what's told to questioning and investigating, is the heart of critical thinking. Thales' method involved a few key principles. First, he prioritized observation. He didn't just theorize in a vacuum. He looked at the world around him. Whether he was measuring the height of the pyramids in Egypt by comparing their shadows to those of smaller objects, or studying the stars to predict eclipses, Thales grounded his ideas in what he could see and measure. Second, he valued reason over tradition. He wasn't afraid to challenge the dominant narratives of his day. even if it meant standing alone. And third, he embraced curiosity as a guiding force. For Thales, every question was an opportunity to learn, every mystery a puzzle to solve. This wasn't just intellectual play. It was a way of engaging with reality in a meaningful, grounded way. Now, you might be thinking, okay, that's great for understanding the universe, but how does this help me when I'm deciding whether to take a new job, end a relationship, or manage my stress? That's exactly where we're headed next. Thales' approach to critical thinking isn't just a relic of ancient Greece. It's a powerful tool for modern living, especially when it comes to making decisions that impact our mental and emotional health. Let's break this down into practical lessons across different areas of life: spirituality, finance, relationships, and mental well-being, showing how Thales' wisdom can guide us through the fog of uncertainty. First, let's talk about spirituality. Now, Thales wasn't a spiritual guru in the way we might think of later philosophers or religious figures. His focus was on the material world, on understanding nature through reason. But there's a profound spiritual lesson in his approach: the idea of finding meaning through inquiry rather than blind belief. In our modern lives, we're often bombarded with spiritual dogmas or self-help trends that promise quick answers. Meditate this way, manifest that, follow this guru. Thales would urge us to question these prescriptions. Instead of accepting a spiritual path because it's popular or comforting, use critical thinking to explore what resonates with you. Observe your own experiences. Does a particular practice like mindfulness or prayer actually bring you peace? Or are you just going through the motions? Reason through your beliefs. Are they rooted in something you've truly examined, or are they inherited from family or culture? By applying Thales' method, you can cultivate a spirituality that feels authentic, reducing the inner conflict that often arises from living out of alignment with your true self. This, in turn, nurtures mental well-being by giving you a sense of clarity and purpose. Next, let's consider finance, a realm where decisions can weigh heavily on our minds. Thales' olive press story, whether fact or legend, shows us how critical thinking can lead to practical success. He observed the world around him, predicted a pattern, and acted on it. In today's world, financial decisions often feel overwhelming. Should I invest in this stock, buy a house, or save for retirement? Emotions like fear or greed can cloud our judgment. Thales would encourage us to step back and observe the data. Look at market trends, consult reliable sources, and question the hype. Don't just follow the crowd or act on a gut feeling without scrutiny. Reason through the risks and rewards. For example, before making a big purchase, ask yourself, is this a need or a want? What are the long-term consequences? By applying critical thinking, you reduce impulsive decisions that lead to financial stress, which is a major contributor to anxiety and mental strain. Instead, you build a sense of control and confidence in your choices. Now, let's turn to relationships, an area where emotions often override logic, sometimes to our detriment. Thales' emphasis on observation and reason can be a lifeline here. Whether it's a romantic partnership, a friendship, or a family dynamic, we often make decisions based on assumptions or societal expectations rather than clear-eyed analysis. Thales would ask us to observe the patterns in our interactions. Is this relationship bringing mutual growth, or is it draining you? Question your assumptions. Why do you feel obligated to stay in a toxic dynamic? Is it fear of loneliness, or a belief you can fix someone? Use reason to weigh the pros and cons. For instance, if you're deciding whether to confront a loved one about a recurring issue, think through the potential outcomes. What's the best way to communicate? What's at stake if you don't address it? By approaching relationships with critical thinking, you can make decisions that honor your well-being, reducing the emotional turmoil of indecision or regret. This doesn't mean being cold or detached. It means being honest with yourself about what serves your mental health and the health of the relationship. Finally, let's focus on mental and emotional well-being, the heart of today's episode. In our fast-paced, information-saturated world, our minds are constantly bombarded with choices, big and small, that can lead to decision fatigue, stress, and even paralysis. Thales' critical thinking offers a way to cut through the noise. His method of stepping back, observing, and reasoning can be a powerful antidote to overthinking or emotional overwhelm. Let's say you're facing a major life decision, like whether to relocate for a job. Instead of spiraling into what-if scenarios, channel Thales. Observe the facts. What are the concrete benefits and drawbacks of moving? Question your fears. Are they based on evidence, or are they just worst-case imaginings? Reason through your options by listing pros and cons, perhaps even seeking input from trusted sources. Much like Thales might have consulted other thinkers or observed natural patterns. This structured approach can calm the chaos in your mind, giving you a sense of agency over your choices. It's not about eliminating emotions are human and valuable, but about balancing them with clarity. Over time, this practice can reduce anxiety, build resilience, and foster a quieter, more grounded mental state. I want to share a personal reflection here to bring this home. A few years ago, I faced a career crossroads stay in a stable but uninspiring job, or take a risk on a passion project that might fail. My mind was a storm of doubt and fear. Then, I started applying a Thales-like approach, almost instinctively. I observed my situation. What did the data of my life tell me? I was unhappy in my current role, and the passion project aligned with my skills and values. I questioned my assumptions. Was staying safe really safe if it meant sacrificing my mental health? I reasoned through the options, mapping out a plan to mitigate risks. The process didn't eliminate fear, but it gave me a framework to move forward with intention. That decision to take the leap led me here, hosting this podcast, connecting with all of you. Critical thinking, in the spirit of Thales, became my compass. As we wrap up, let's reflect on Thales of Miletus and his enduring impact. He wasn't just a man of his time, he was a pioneer who set the stage for how we think today. From science to philosophy, his insistence on questioning, observing, and reasoning shaped the Western intellectual tradition. Every time we ask why or seek evidence over assumption, we're walking in Thales' footsteps. His legacy reminds us that the mind is a powerful tool not just for understanding the cosmos, but for navigating the complexities of our own lives. So what can we take away from Thales as we face our daily decisions, big and small? Remember his core principles. Observe the world around you with open eyes, question the narratives you've been handed, and reason through your choices with clarity. Whether you're seeking spiritual depth, financial stability, healthier relationships, or simply a calmer mind, Thales' critical thinking can be your guide. It's not about having all the answers, it's about asking better questions. And in doing so, you cultivate a mental resilience that can weather life's uncertainties. Thank you for joining me on this journey back to ancient Miletus and into the mind of Thales. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear how you're applying critical thinking in your own life. Drop a comment or send a message. And if you're hungry for more philosophical wisdom, subscribe to Philosophies for Life for our next episode, where we'll explore another thinker whose ideas can transform the way we live. Until then, keep questioning, keep observing, and keep reasoning your way to a fuller, more intentional life. Take care, everyone.